Okay.
Okay. Look at the wrong camera.
Okay.
All right.
And action.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
It's counting down very well.
Okay. Today is January 29th, 2020 now.
Yep.
This is the People's View. I'm your host today. My name is Bill Ohm, former state representative. Along with me are my good friends Carl Seidel, former state rep, Don LeBrun, former state rep, and Kevin Avard, former state rep and former senator of the city of Nashua.
Hopefully going to be a senator again.
There you go.
We need you back, Kevin.
Yeah, we're working on it.
In fact, we need a lot of good people back. I'm going to start with a brief public service announcement. This is the opportunity to do public service for the city of Nashua at the State House. Every 2 years, there's a new legislature elected to the State House. We have 400 state representatives, 27 of whom come from the city of Nashua. If you're watching this show, you're probably interested in what's going on at the state. And I have an opportunity for you because we are looking for a few good men and women to join us as candidates for the State House. People can ask, what's that involved? Well, the most important thing is to vote properly on all these bills, proposed laws that come through the legislature. Nothing happens in New Hampshire that's law unless it goes through the House of Representatives. And we're looking for people to serve in the House of Representatives to decide whether these laws are good, not good, or good if they're modified. People can ask about the time commitments. Typically, you can, if you're on a committee, which most people are, it's 3 days a month. If you don't want to be a committee, I said that backwards. If you're on a committee, it's 3 days a week, typically,
For a state rep.
for state rep.
Right.
Senator, you're a little bit longer for your time commitments. And if you don't want to be on a committee, it's 3 days a month on the voting days. That's typical requirements. The pay's not much.
But it's great. It's great.
And Kevin, what do you get paid? It's the
Oh,
same as the
same
House
thing.
members.
Yeah, we get paid $100
$100 a year.
a year. Yeah.
And that's set by our Constitution in, I think, 1884. And it wasn't broke, and they're not going to fix it.
And you know, the nice thing about that, it is a commitment. It really is public service. And so when people come out and say, well, you know, all you politicians, no, stop right there. We're not politicians. We're not making the $80,000, $100,000, $500,000, or whatever these guys up in Washington are making, or in other states. We're making $100 a year. We get a little bit of gas money on top of that. And if you're in the Senate, we got a little break room with a little bit of treats. So when you were out there arguing on the floor, we go in the back room. We have some grapes and cake and stuff like that. But that's our perk.
You get a toll transponder, too.
You get a toll transponder.
Good only in New Hampshire.
Only in New Hampshire.
But we're not politicians. We're actually public servants. We're actually involved with our communities, and there's a difference. And the people that say, "Oh, well, you're all politicians," you don't really know what's going on up there. If you think that's, you know, we're just up there trying to, you know, hobnob and no, we're activists. We're engaged. We don't like our taxes going up. We don't like the Department of Bureaucracy intruding into our lives. We want to protect our First Amendment, our Second Amendment. We're activists. We're engaged in our community, in our state, and we're a republic. And if you're not going to be engaged, stop criticizing. You know. But if you want to get involved, there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And do they contact you?
Yeah, my name's on the website. Bill Ohm at AOL.com is my email address. Phone number is 617-290-4114. My cell number, house number in New Hampshire, 891-2306. Give me a call. I'll give you the scoop on what it's like to be a state rep and some tips on running for it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget, there's 3 people in each ward in Nashua. So we're responsible for roughly 10,000 voters.
That's
and
right.
we communicate with them directly. And so that's one of the nice things about being a legislator. You know that you're really getting a chance to hear from your constituents what they'd like.
Yeah. And we offer some training as well. Carl, you know, we have training sessions on
That's right.
how to put together a little pitch on what you want to say, how to approach people.
And there's a very good training session if you get elected, so you're not going in there completely cold. They teach you very quickly how you should be acting.
I've heard some people say, well, I don't want to go and get involved and be up there because I just get in a fight all the time. Welcome. Welcome. We want people that don't follow, that are not sheep.
Yeah.
We want people that have new ideas. We want people that are willing to rock the boat, willing to step outside in the Republican Party. And I'll tell you why. We have more of a diversity in our platform, with our people, than any other party. Libertarians, conservatives, moderates, hardcore Republicans. You have people that are really independent. They have no idea. You're all welcome. And we get along, and that's one of the beauties about our party. I think it was Bill O'Brien who said it's something like hurting a bunch of cats, and that's a really hard thing to do. But that's the beauty of it. Everybody brings what their gift is to our party. We're not all sheep. Get up there and speak your mind. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a doctor. You can be a janitor. You can be any walk of life and bring that to the table. And I think that's a beautiful part of the state.
Yeah.
But you have to have diplomacy and tact as well. You don't go up there as a radical, one-sided individual that is right about everything. There are times you're not correct about something, and you have to learn to accept that. If somebody else has a better idea, you have to learn to speak with them and incorporate their ideas with your ideas and come up with something workable.
Right.
You don't go up there and say, I'm right all the time, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says. If you don't agree with me, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
I know
that
people
way.
like that.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
But
That's why I wanted to say it.
yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the public hearing process, because that's really where the legislation starts. Somebody has an idea about a change to the law, and says, okay, what's this about? So it starts with a public hearing. The presenter of this idea makes his case to the committee, and then the committee respectfully listens to that case, may ask a couple of questions, then takes testimony from the public. What does the man on the street, the woman in the house, think about these ideas, and listen carefully to all those thoughts? And then we close the public hearing, and then we debate among ourselves to figure out, well, how does it all balance out? What really makes sense? And then we'll put together a recommendation by the committee, maybe a tweak to the bill, send it to the full House for a broader debate, and if it passes from there, it goes to the Senate, and the Senate starts all over again with these crazy ideas from the House and say, well, what do they want to do to us now? And we'll take a look at this. If it goes through the House and the Senate, then it goes to the governor. He's got the last chance to be the big boy on the block to say, wait a minute, kids, that's not going to work. Or he might say, hopefully, yes, it's a great idea. Glad you thought of it. Let's put it into law and make it happen.
Or sometimes they have to take it and let it go to further studies to sort of refine it to make it more workable and more acceptable to everybody involved.
What kind of committees do they offer in the House?
Well, I was on the Ways and Means Committee, which is the tax committee, the guys with the green eye shades and the pencils. But we are looking at the details of tax law. There's a lot of subtleties in the tax law, and you want to be sure that it does not have unintended consequences. So we're always looking at, if we pass this change in taxes, what's the impact of that going to be that we haven't thought about?
The trickle effect. Yeah.
Triple fee, yeah.
Carl, you were on transportation, or?
I was on Public Works,
Public Works.
which gets some of the big bills, not too many of them, but the big ones when you have to do a 10-year plan, that's a big one.
That's a big bill for the highways.
And the other ones like the capital expenses and the DOT's programs, which are some of the largest ones that the state's responsible for.
I would ask what ones you weren't on.
Yeah, I was on 18 different committees, but I was vice chair and chair at times of Health and Human Services,
That's a big one.
which is the most important committee in the entire State House. It concerns 47% of the budget.
Wow.
And now I think it's even more than 47%. Of course, I haven't been there in 2 years, or a year and a half anyway. But I think it went up to a little over 50% now.
Wow.
Well, one of the things I think the people want to know is what support do they have when they get in there? Because, as you said, most of us are not lawyers who are interested with the intricacies of legislation. We have a staff of lawyers
Yep.
which write up the bill according to what you tell them you want to accomplish. And we also have an office staff that can give you history of what has happened and how successful it was and how people keep to the budget or don't keep to the budget.
Right.
Plus an audit committee which looks at how well each division does their work.
You've shown me a lot of those. And it's funny, you can go through an audit and see where the state hasn't measured up to its own standards, and you say, well, what's happened? And everybody says, I don't know.
I can bring you an audit book and show you places that audits were done in 2004, all the recommendations made, and at the bottom of it, and this would be, say, 2018, at the bottom of it would say, nothing's changed.
That's why we want people.
We have not rectified the situation.
We want people up there that say, okay, enough of this.
Right.
Enough of this. You know, you see it, and it can be discouraging, but at the same time, if you want to make a change, then you grab one of those, and
That's right.
you can make a difference.
Right.
You know, if you know, be like the man of La Mancha. You know, to dream the impossible. I want to sing. To dream the impossible dream. You know, and you can do it. And New Hampshire is the perfect place to do that.
Yeah. And this particular legislative session now, we have the Democrats dominating the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of very strange bills that are coming through for proposals on changes to the laws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can talk about a few of those that have come up very recently in the State House.
I know in the Senate there's SB 663. Now this is something that you would think, well, the Democrats are for the downtrodden, for the poor, for the minority, and yet on a routine basis they're attacking this child credit program for education scholarships. Mm-hmm. We adopted this, I think, in 2010 or 11. It was somewhere around that time, and it's grown exponentially. Kids that are in low income areas in life get the opportunity through a lottery to go to a private school, a school that'll meet their needs.
But it's under public school auspices. The charter schools is what
Charter
you're
schools
talking
are
about.
public schools.
And
Charters,
so
that's right.
But it's really school choice. It
It's
could be
school choice.
choice,
public
which
school, a
is
private school, a parochial school.
So 663 wants to take away a certain degree of that of the tax credit. They want to attack that, and this is just. And we were just talking about it last week and the week before that. About this attack on school choice. What's the problem here? Mm-hmm. These kids get the opportunity of a lifetime that other kids that are going to Bishop Girton or Bishop Brady or up Andover or Tilton or St. Paul's, those kids, they got it made. That's great. Why are you taking that opportunity for these kids to go to a school of their choice? It's getting getting enough of this.
That's the New Hampshire way anyway. We have choices in all the things we do, and I think we want to make sure that the law doesn't start restricting those things.
Yeah.
And
Not every child learns under the same environment.
Correct.
Right,
Exactly.
You've got to fit the child to the environment.
right.
So we passed this bill in actually 2011, 2012, and now the attempt is to roll that back, roll these reforms back.
Yep, through the Senate Ways and Means, all right? So that's one of the areas where you're very familiar with, and they wanted to roll it back. And why? It didn't pass, so that's the good thing. A lot of more people are getting involved. They're seeing the value to this. They're seeing that, hey, my kid does learn differently. My kid really he doesn't learn in that environment. He learns in this environment, and it fits her needs. So it allows her to achieve, and Parents came out and fought against it, and so it died in committee. But that's not always the end of it. You know, it can always get revived on the Senate floor, and you know,
Or
they're
a
just
companion bill could
persistent.
come through the House
Right.
and then get into the Senate that way.
Yeah, and sometimes they have they have bills that mirror each other. I don't know if there's one in the House that's similar to that. But it's like they never stop, and yet they claim to be the champion of the downtrodden, and that's just not the case.
Well, you can see that too in the executive board where they're holding up this, what is it, a $40 million grant over 5 years? That,
46 million.
46 million.
46 million.
For the charter schools expansion, because we have now one of the top ones in the country here, right here in Nashua. And there are other ones that are getting awards because they fit, as you said, the learning atmosphere that is good for one type of student.
Good fit for the kid.
Yep.
And there's all, I don't know how many varieties. Anybody have an idea how many varieties of charter schools we have? I mean, we have
there's-
some that specialize in music,
Yeah.
arts, some that specialize.
Yeah, there's dozens of them. Dozens of them.
Well, the
If not more.
legislature wants to throw away money that can come in to benefit our schools.
Right.
They instead want to grab other money from things like a sales tax.
Right.
I couldn't believe it, Carl, when I saw that one of our own national representatives, the Honorable Mr. Cleaver, has put in a bill in his district, which is where the retail district is, to put in a sales tax.
And
And
people
he
from
talks,
Mass-
they talk
On
to us-
electronic instruments, isn't that the one he does?
Yeah, electronic instruments, but that's just an opener. You know, the
Yeah,
idea is
that's right.
to start a sales tax till they kind of broaden it to other devices.
Nothing
and then
ever goes
raise
away.
it to a higher level.
Yeah, and
Nothing
what-
ever goes away. It only grows.
Right, and watch your property taxes go down? No.
Yeah.
No, it's never enough. The thing is if you feed the beast wants more. And it's called the Department of Bureaucracy, and it survives on the people's backs, on their taxes. And as it grows, it needs to survive, and it needs more money, more money, more money. Let's adopt this program. Let's adopt this program. Hey, how about more gambling? How about more pot? How about more this, more that, more that? We can generate more money. For what? To grow, and it just doesn't stop. That's the nature of government, and you have to put the brakes on. A sales tax isn't going to do anything. Stop spending. That's what the problem is. It's spending.
Or spend more realistically.
Frugally.
Spend more money that you have, not more money that you
That's
wish you
true.
had.
But I mean, even recently now, the paper's saying about the increased health care costs for the employees of Nashua. They said they're going to have to increase taxes because of that. Well, you know, I ran into that in industry. And at a certain period, instead of a 20-80% type of split, the company said, okay, the health care costs, we're going to have to look and see how we can keep them down, but we're going to split the increases 50-50, which is going to wind up what's going to happen if you want to be fair about it.
You know, all the time you turn on the television, you see these wonderful commercials: Liberty, 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 Geico, Geico, all these car commercials. You know, let's take a really good look at a way maybe we can lower the cost of some of the health care. How about some competition?
Right.
If we
right.
could do it with automobiles, why can't we do it with the insurance companies? I used to sell years ago with Mass Mutual. It was called the Mega Plan for small businesses. When you drive out industry out of your state, it drives up the cost. We have
That's
what,
right.
2 carriers?
2, yeah.
When we had, how many before? We
5,
had
I believe.
Health Source, we had,
I think we had 5.
but
More, it was even further back you go, the more you have.
the further
Yeah.
back you go,
Yeah.
the more
We
you
had Harvard
have.
Pilgrim for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And so when the carriers leave the state, when there's no competition, then the cost will go up because they got you.
Well, what are they doing? They're talking about Medicare for everybody. Medicare for everybody gives them a monopoly. Monopolies don't work. We don't allow commercial monopolies because we know they just jack up the price as much as they can get for
And
it.
California is adopting that.
Right.
Medicare is for everyone. Well, who's going to pay for that when they go bankrupt? So Tracy and I were watching Family Feud the other day. Again, we watch Family Feud. I'm getting old.
You sure are.
I'm getting old. Well, we enjoy it. Love you, Steve. Hopefully they see that. Anyway, there was an attorney as a guest on one of the families, and what kind of attorney? Well, I help states and cities with bankruptcy. That was for real. That was for real.
He could be a legislator.
He's probably got plenty of business too.
Well, Chicago, but when
Yeah,
you
that's
think of
what's
the
happening.
California states, when I was a kid, the styles, what's in California is the wave. Ladies and gentlemen, if we adopt that nationally, we're going bankrupt, because that just means it's a free for all, and the cost will go up, and it's suicide. It's suicide. So I think, regarding the cost of healthcare, let's legislate so that we can start buying across the borders. Let's build up some competition. It's
Choice
healthy.
and competition.
Choice and competition. It's healthy.
Yeah, one plan doesn't fit all people. When I was working in a company, they had benefits for pregnancy and chiropractic and stuff that I would never use. And I asked the HR person about it because, well, can I get a different plan? So, nope, that's the plan. Everybody's got to take it.
Yeah, they came
But
up
that's
with
the only
cafeteria
thing that
plans.
keeps the plan solvent, is when the people that don't need the plan are paying for it as well. Otherwise, the plan is, like you said, it's bankrupt. Need that lawyer off the Family Feud.
It was just, who'd have thunk it, But yeah, so it's an interesting free market. Competition is one way to drive down the cost.
And that's why we're looking at some of these things that are going on up there in Concord.
Yeah.
Right now, last year, 57 vetoes by the governor, which is fortunate. We have a Republican governor who looks after our pocket.
Definitely a record.
And most of them, all but two
Sustained.
were able to go through. So we have to watch that. It's coming through again. They prettied it up a little bit, maybe. They've made the variety, but there's a heck of a lot. You had some some other bills there, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of bills there's various gun bills that the governor stood behind the Second Amendment. There's another gun bill coming up, which makes me want to shoot myself.
No.
No, please.
No, it's there's a big push by the Mayor Bloomberg contingent to try to restrict the Second Amendment across the board.
Yeah, he did a little photo op, and there were two national state reps that were with him. And apparently he's putting out $60 million to take away your constitutional right to bear arms. Isn't that funny? Everybody's claiming Constitution, Constitution, impeachment, Constitution, Constitution. Well, it is your constitutional right to bear arms. In Nashua, in the state of New Hampshire, we have concealed carry. You feel safe in New Hampshire?
I always feel safe in New Hampshire.
Because the good guys and good girls have the guns to protect themselves. And people know that. And it doesn't seem to be having a problem here. Maine has it. I think Vermont has it. Bernie's place, right? So we don't seem to have a problem. Why is Mr. Bloomberg trying to take away our Second Amendment rights?
Well, I think it's the broader question of who's going to kind of control your life. Do you control your life, or does the government try to control your life? That's kind of the real crux of a lot of these issues, where you're not trusted to do things responsibly on your own, and therefore you have to have the government, tie your hands in certain ways.
Yeah, there's another bill, I don't know the number of it. I think it has to do with doxing. I don't know what the term means, but I do know the effect that you're not allowed to criticize your state reps or people that are in office. There's a state representative here in Nashua that introduced something like that. She doesn't like to be criticized, so she's putting in a bill.
Representative Schmidt.
Oh, who is that?
Representative Schmidt, Ward 1.
Ward 1, Jan Schmidt. Oh, my. Well, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
But there's another constitutional issue. Everybody's claiming Constitution. Well, the thing is, we're in the public eye and we get criticized all the time. And that's part of the, that's part of the deal. That's part of the perks. So to put in a bill saying you can't do that, apparently she doesn't like Granite Grok. that's an organization that puts out, they hold no bars and they take no prisoners. If you're screwing up, they're going to let you know.
Yeah, it's a fact-based organization. We report what's going on.
Right.
And
Well-
they don't like to be exposed about some of the things they're doing.
Well, she doesn't like that, and so I find that really bizarre.
If you don't like criticism, don't do things that warrant criticism.
I'm in trouble.
Well, or at least for an intelligent criticism. We all screw up on things, but it just seems to me that if you're going to be, and this gets back to the idea of being a state legislator, legislator. If you want to serve the public, you got to listen to the public, and the public's going to have a wide variety of opinion,
Oh, and they do.
and you really have to listen thoughtfully and respectfully, and then make some tough decisions as to what's really best for most of the people in the state.
I think, Carl, you were mentioning something about the right to know bill or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's another bill that they want to increase the cost of getting right to know information. They don't make information very available to people, and sometimes when you write a right to know bill, they pile on a bunch of paperwork so that they can charge the people more.
Do we call that red tape? Is that the thing?
That's red tape.
Red tape with a tax.
If they looked at it from the beginning and worked with their data so that it's on the computer, they wouldn't have to do search. The people could look at the records themselves and find out the information they want. But no, they got to control what information goes out to make sure there's supposedly some personal information that doesn't get out. Well, just write your record so you don't have to have that personal information on there.
But a person should pay for the materials that they utilize to get this right to know. They should pay for the materials. But what they want to do is to charge also for the time
Right.
that the individual
Including
providing
the
you with,
benefits.
including
What
the
are the-
benefits.
what are the costs
They're
of
already
salary
getting
and
paid. That's double dipping.
Right. We're paying for that. But they also ought to put it on the computer too. That's one of the
Sure.
that's modernized
Sure.
local and state.
You can
information.
redact certain information that should not be public.
The state does have a good system, but the local ones don't always have that.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. But we have to watch. All the legislators or the bureaucrats have to be held up to transparency. You have to know what they're doing, and you know why, and they should be able to justify that. They shouldn't complain that you make them work too hard.
Isn't there a carbon tax being introduced as well?
Yeah, there's an initiative to try to lower the carbon emissions of the state of New Hampshire by 80% by the year 2050. Now, that sounds like a lot of expense, and I'm not sure what the benefits are really going to be. And I mean, this whole idea about carbon, somehow, when I was a kid in high school, we learned about the carbon cycle. How the trees would absorb carbon, goes into the ground, then wood gets burned, it gets released into the air, and it gets absorbed by the plants, goes into the rocks, goes into the oceans. Carbon cycle. And carbon dioxide is a nutrient.
That's
Trees.
what every tree needs.
Yeah. So somehow the EPA has classified carbon dioxide not as a nutrient for the plant, but as a pollutant. So they talk about carbon pollution. So I'm thinking about this. Well, if you got pollution, you try to really knock it down to the lowest possible level. So what if we try to knock out all the carbon dioxide in the air? That's probably not going to be too good for life on Earth.
No.
So the real question is, what's the right level of carbon in the atmosphere to sustain growth, to capture sunlight? And there's no debate about that. It's just that, well, it's too much. Well, is it really too much?
Yeah, who are you, right? I mean, who are you to set the? Not you,
Yeah.
but who are you to set the limits? I mean, our planet has been here for a little while, and it's been in its own cycle. It just takes one solar flare to really cause havoc in our.
Yeah,
in
or
our
a
world.
volcano
Or a
eruption, or a big
volcano.
meteor that could hit the Earth.
I really believe that we need to be responsible with our environment. When I see China dumping into the sea, and I'm sure that we've done it, and that really bothers me, and those things really need to be addressed.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that we need to focus on.
I think that's one of the things that's being brought forth, though, that some of the companies, China and India and a few of the countries that are doing things that they probably contribute a lot more than the United States does.
Right.
Well, you get to the issue of energy in developing countries. If you're a developing country, you need power to get clean water, to purify the water, to handle the sewerage, to generate electricity for heat and cooling, and for food preparation, for storage. You need energy. And typically, in a developing country, the cheapest energy is what you can burn. You can harvest, either it's wood or more typically coal, and then burn that. And then if you are you in a more advanced country where you've already got clean water and clean air and refrigeration, and
Natural gas is a clean clean product. And
it's exceptionally clean.
Yeah.
However, when you burn natural gas, you get water vapor and carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide is this scare gas now that's got really an overregulation mentality on it. If you look at the atmosphere, the biggest greenhouse gas is water vapor. It's much more potent than
we got a
carbon
lot of that
dioxide.
too, don't we?
Yeah. And
Rains every day.
it rains every day. Yeah. And that goes into dams, which give you hydroelectric power, which is very low energy expense, very green energy. And you get the sun heating up the water, and it all kind of works pretty well, I think.
It's an equilibrium that really has been working for quite a while,
Yeah.
and it goes up a little bit and comes back down, and goes down a little bit and comes back up. So
But that's the biggest factor
Yeah.
in climate is water vapor. Now, the other argument is, well, the water vapor has about a 2-week cycle, whereas things like carbon dioxide have a longer cycle. So the effects are going to be much smaller but last a little longer. And that's the big argument as to why we have to regulate carbon dioxide. But what's missing in those arguments are the overriding argument that Carl just kind of alluded to, which is the big cycles of planetary geometry with the sun. The Earth is in this orbit around the sun. It's not a perfect circle.
No, it's elliptical.
It's elliptical, so sometimes it's closer, sometimes it's further. The Earth is a spinning top. If you were a little kid and you spun a top, you see it kind of precessing after a while, kind of wobbles. So the North Pole gets a little closer, then a little further.
They said that's
little
shifted a little
closer,
bit. There's the
further.
magnetic.
yeah.
And separate from that's the magnetic field, which is more of a serious problem actually, because we're protected by the magnetic field from solar radiation.
Right.
All these particles zapped at us by the sun. You got this big magnetic field. It's like this shield. It
So
bounces
it
them off.
repels them. Yeah.
Mars used to have a magnetic field. It doesn't anymore. Its atmosphere got blown away. So we need that magnetic field from the molten iron in the Earth's core to protect us from all kinds of
And ladies
things.
and gentlemen, you are not listening to the Discovery Channel.
I'm not Mr. Wizard.
Let's go back to pollution for a minute. There's a lot of
We've
people that
included
think
the air
pollution
ducts, so
has
get us back.
borders.
Yeah.
Pollution doesn't have borders.
doesn't.
We can clean up the United States.
Yeah.
We could go in and have zero pollution. But it's not going to change anything. Because just as you said, atmosphere travels around. So it doesn't matter unless we have total unanimity and every country in the world decides they're going to cut pollution. That's the only way you're going to do it.
And they're going to have to do it
And
voluntarily.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And that hasn't happened. I don't know that there's a plan right now to even consider doing that, to bring countries together.
It could be in treaties and negotiations of that
It-
nature. That
it
could
be,
sway
but,
that,
but I haven't heard of them.
No.
I know India is one of the biggest polluters. China is terrible. When I went to China, I had to wear a mask all the time.
Right.
The place is unbearable.
And so that's the thing. Why are we hamstringing ourselves in our economy
Right.
when when already we're so regulated right now, and we're doing our best. We're always looking. We're very conscious of it. We're very sensitive to the idea of pollution, of contamination. I mean, we talk about, you know, if you're in, up at the Capitol and you're in Fish and Game, you know, in natural resources, you're talking about PFCs and all these other kinds of things that are engaged. I think your son sent me something with regards to certain contaminants that get into the water, but he also brought up the fact that they're filters. We're developing these things, and the only way you can develop the solution to fix the problem is by having a free market, having people actually trying to fix it and engaged, instead of over-regulating to where, oh my gosh, you can't do anything.
I think monitoring what's happening is a good thing.
Right.
You ought to know whether there's some spots, let's say, or smaller areas that need to be controlled a little bit, but it's only when you do the proper analysis that you're going to be effective. As you say, you can't clean up a spot here and not worry about where the contamination's
Where's
coming
the wind
from.
going to take it?
Yeah.
Right, and you know, one of the things that's troubling is that just about every one of the politicians on the Democratic Party and the socialists, they use this whole climate change and this
Yeah.
whole as a political weapon. You know, we're going to who is it? Ms. Warren. She wants trillions of dollars to do what? You're gonna destroy the very country that made you know that the whole world benefits from, especially some of these growing nations. You know, if we're hamstringed and we're so regulated to where we can't help other countries, there's no hope. You know, this is, I think it was Ronald Reagan says, you know, we're the last hope of the world here.
Yeah.
Because we provide a lot.
And we're doing that monetarily and with training.
With training.
We're doing bringing some of our inventions to some of those countries that probably wouldn't know how to use them properly. But we're training those people, getting pure water, getting better food. That's what you're doing.
So, you know, you see these commercials, you know, there's a little bag floating in the ocean, but it looks like an iceberg, and then of course you look underneath it and there's this bag, and that's a pretty effective commercial, but I don't understand why there's this hatred towards plastic straws.
But why aren't we banning our automobiles?
Yeah.
There's more plastic in my automobile than this Market Basket has in all 93 of their stores.
Right. So, yeah, so.
Yeah, it's a real conundrum because I think it's a feel-good reaction. Well, I'm going to have a paper straw, so I'm going to feel good. I'm so virtuous. But you haven't done a blasted thing with that.
No, but have you ever seen what happens after spring break? Have you seen the beaches?
I never went on
Oh,
a break.
Or after a Democratic rally?
Oh.
Look at the fields. Look at the concern for all the plastic that's all over the beach. Yeah, it's there. Well, we just put it there. Come on. Stop being a hypocrite. You know, just, you know, take care of your own backyard and we'll be fine. People are engaged. We're sensitive to it. And I think as a nation, we are sensitive to it. And we're always trying to improve.
Well, it's
Speaking
hard to
of-
get a plastic bag now to clean up the plastic because if you go to a supermarket you know, in certain states like Connecticut, you can't get a plastic bag.
Massachusetts charges a nickel for a paper bag.
Oh, wasn't that another
That's got consequences because I was reading in the paper recently that these little carry bags, plastic buckets that you use to go around the store instead of a supermarket big cart, you have a little plastic bucket that you walk around with.
Not so healthy, are they?
Well, when people, you know, you'd empty it on the conveyor belt, then you'd carry your other stuff home in a plastic bag. Well, they're not getting a plastic bag, so guess what? They're taking a little cart, stuffing their paid groceries in that little bag. That's now a plastic cart that they got from the supermarket, and taking that home. So there's a shortage of these plastic carts because people can't get the plastic bags anymore. They got to carry it home somehow, so they use the supermarket's cart. It's
Plastic bags and straws will never clean up the universe or the
it's
planet.
good for cleaning up dog poop. It's very handy around the house. You know?
Well, look, we talked about a lot of things, and you want to bring something back home. I think we have to worry about Nashua a little bit. And I think that's another reason why we're looking for candidates. Not only do we need candidates in the legislation, but a year from now we're going to need candidates for the aldermans and for the Board of Education and whatever other county type of office. So that's why we want people to talk to us about thinking of running for one of these things. We can give you experience. We have a number of people who were legislators or aldermen that are willing to talk to you, tell you about their experiences and how the city runs. Because the city has a lot of things that they're trying to do. You're talking about the increase in health care costs. You're talking about $180 million for the Board of Education for the new schools and stuff. And we have new plans on a new way of running the schools, which is going to add another $3 million or more to the cost of education in Nashua. And we want to do a theater. We want to fix up the river. There's a lot of good things that we want to do, but we can't do it without a thought, a planning, and something that shows that you're going to get a payback for your money.
Right.
Okay? You can't just throw money at any one of these problems. You got to do an analysis and see whether there's something better than just hiring more people or just buying more equipment or whatever. You have to have a plan on it. And that's one of the things that we want young people to come and join the candidate list.
We
that
saw a
we've
few
got.
young people at the last GOP meeting, and some new local people, and that's exciting. And we saw a lot of people at this last GOP, what was that called?
Convention?
Convention.
Oh, yeah.
It was packed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I think you're seeing a lot of that, but they're seeing a lot on the other side, too, that still thinks that just throwing money at the problem is the way. So you got to get the people who are a little bit more realistic in. And even if you're not going to run, you can help others to run.
Right.
So we need a support that will help people campaign during this coming year. So even if you're not going to run, come and help somebody else.
But we
We
have
want-
to spend money wisely.
That's right.
For instance, look at the rail project. How many studies have we done now? I think it's 3. We're well over $10 million or something like that. We're no closer today than we were 10 years ago.
That's
And now
fine,
they're
but
talking about doing another study.
well, it's being
How
done
much
anyway.
can you study?
No, this is a different approach. So anyway, there is some work that's being done, and personally, I'm on the rail committee because I want to make sure they're doing it right. And so far, I've been somewhat successful in getting them to concentrate on let's doing an analysis of these things and be prepared. Who's going to pay for it? How is it going to be paid? Let's get everybody to has a need to say that they're willing to contribute to the paying for it, because you don't want to go out there and all of a sudden face $200 million.
So what are they looking at? Are they looking at just it coming to Nashua, or are they looking at it to come to Manchester?
Right now,
or
the
Concord?
limitation, which has been approved finally, that is $4 million, that didn't really cost us anything, because and that's another
Some kind of
story.
credit thing?
Yeah, it's a credit thing that we get from the federal government because we have the turnpike toll, and that pays for it, and then we get credit. So we use those things, so it's like somebody's gift card, if you will. But what we're looking at is, what are the needs? How is it going to help the environment? How is it going to help the
Congestion?
congestion, or just the development, the economic development for the southern part of New Hampshire? Right now, it's only going to include up to Manchester. That's extension of the rail line, and whether it's for commuters or for just passengers, any passengers, it could go back and forth, because our businesses up here are being so successful, they can't find people to handle the jobs. We have quite a few openings that have been open for over the year because they can't get the talent up here. Well, this is the rail's two-way street. So you can get people coming up from the younger people who may like to have the situation of being next to all the party and everything
Well,
down
the
there
urban
in Washington.
environment, a lot of
But
It's a
stuff
different
going on in Boston.
environment.
But they still want to run rail straight up the center of New Hampshire to Manchester. They never talk about how they're getting the people from both sides, the east and the west, to come to use the rail.
Well, you're not. One of the other things that people don't know about is that there's another government grant that is funding, looking at the bus transportation, and they are looking at bringing. You're right.
Which is doing pretty well.
Yeah,
The bus is the only transportation that's making a profit.
Right. Well, and what you want to do is coordinate both of them, so that people are being brought to and fro from the train. Okay, because if you want somebody to go, and we do have a number of industrial parks surrounding this corridor, if you will, between, and if you get to get them to support some of these things because they want these people to work there.
We had an incident with one of our, a couple of snowstorms back. One of my neighbors, I was actually just talking to him this morning about it. I said, his wife just got a new job in Boston. And he said, "Do you want me to plow you out?" She said, no, I'll be fine. And sure enough, she got stuck in the snowbank. And it was a really bad day. It was her second day on the job. And I love my little snowblower. I actually do everybody and make a trail. It's a weird thing I like.
I have a neighbor like that too.
It's just like, hey, you need some help? I got plenty of gas. Anyway, we helped her out. But he told me that she drives to Lowell to get the bus, not to get the train,
Get the train.
to go to her next job. And I thought that is really interesting. It's a real life scenario, and there are people. But and the fact is that she has to go all the way to Lowell in a snowstorm, and she didn't have snow treads, and the risk factor. But
There's
the
a lot of
annoyance
that. I mean, I'm surprised sometimes. I worked in Bella Rica for 28 years, and we had people commuting from Maine to
Oh.
come to work.
yeah.
And, people did that on Long Island where I grew up. I was surprised how long. But I guess they figured that while they're on the train, they could do other work maybe or read or whatever, because it's an hour trip at least for most of that area. But that helped the whole Long Island develop, and they finally got more and more businesses building out further in the island, which used to be just potato farms.
It's interesting. I occasionally I go into Boston and I help out with some water extraction. If some of these buildings have some of their, they have some floods. But getting down there and just driving in all that, it's like, how do you do this day to day? I drove my in-laws to Logan yesterday, and there was a whole bunch of rubbernecking because on the other side of the highway there was an accident, and then as you drove by that accident, there was like 8 miles of just backup.
Oh, yeah.
Those people, that's when you want to be on the train, right? And that's a real life scenario.
But Boston has to do that too. They have to complete their Boston commuting transportation because the trains stop in a certain spot. The buses move a little bit more at where they needed to be.
Right.
So I think that's what you have to that's part of the problem right now for Nashua. We have to look and see how our bus organization, whether that's going to be proper or whether use Uber or Lyft or some other type of transportation to get people to work together. And do you do that as a
Coordinate that.
rapid transit type of way of paying for it? Or does the state pay for this and the businesses and towns pay for that? That's all going to be part of the problem that wasn't looked at before.
I think there's some evidence from the bus that I was taking from Tingsboro, Mass. Into South Station and into Logan Airport as being a pretty success story down that I think you were alluding to on buses.
I use that too.
During the peak times, there's no spots in the parking lot in Tingsboro, and you have to go up to exit
Oh,
8
yeah.
to to get a spot. And then the buses, they're running extra buses now about every 10
Yeah.
minutes in the morning commute.
Early in the morning
Yeah.
and late at night. They 10:30 at night even.
They even go to New York now. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
There's one thing that is absolute fact. There's not a railroad in this country that's making a profit. Not
True.
one.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
the recent numbers I saw about the Northeast Corridor on Amtrak was that they're making money on the Northeast Corridor.
They're not making a profit. They're barely breaking
They
even.
they say the
Well, I guess
subsidy
that's-
gets them through.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah, they
that's
get
what
they
they're
get their
breaking.
capital equipment contributed, but on an ongoing cash basis, once they've got the equipment, they're actually.
They're still
cash
getting a
down.
subsidy from the environmental standpoint. That's been on for the whole time.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that you have to worry about. There is a subsidy, but there's a subsidy on a lot of things like that.
There's a subsidy on the
There's
buses, too.
there's a subsidy on the airplanes. There's a subsidy on boats.
And I'm going to also argue there's a subsidy on electric cars. Don and I were talking about
Right.
this prior to the meeting taping here, because if you've got an electric car and your highways are funded by gas tax,
Right.
wait a minute. If they're all electric cars, you got no gas tax money coming
Yeah.
in. And as cars are going more and more to electric or part electric, shouldn't there be some adjustments made from the folks who get a break on the gas tax?
I gotta laugh a little bit with the electric cars, though. I mean, great
Yeah.
idea. I think it's cool. They're not not a lot of noise. But when I see my neighbors plugged into that, I'm thinking, okay, so is he being is the generation of that electricity gas?
Fossil fuel,
Fossil
or
fuel.
windmills, or
Who's
solar,
generating it,
or-
and how are they generating
Is
it?
it
What are the
coal?
outlets?
Is
Well,
it,
that's
what- is that contributing to? It's just funny because people think, well, just because it's electric, it's completely clean. Well, something dirty's got to be running it.
That's
You know, it's
right.
worth-
We're worried about revenue for the roads, and we take a toll off of exit 12 and another one off exit 11, the tune of almost $2 million in revenue a year. Why are we taking tolls off the roads when we need money for our roads?
But that would
was
be equivalent to us
That
put-
was part of the problem.
If we were taking
originally.
putting a toll though at exit 6 or exit 5, that would suck.
I mean, exit 12 was taken out because it wasn't even paying for the people who were collecting the tolls.
Oh, is that right?
Because you got the airport bypass now.
Yeah,
they
but
go
there was
right
a
around
problem
it.
with exit 12. The people of Merrimack demanded that exit be put in. They took out a bond, which is still payable
I
till
thought that was covered.
no,
Oh, really?
2025.
Oh,
And now they want the state to pay for that bond. They asked for that toll.
oh no, I agree. They were supposed to pay for that. I was
the
going to
exit.
say that's the reason.
That's right.
that
There was not going to
at
be an
11
exit 12 toll, or an exit 12.
Well, but in 11, did they pay it off for the 11?
I'm not sure.
bond?
I
Because that
can't-
was my understanding that
I can't
they
say.
finally paid off.
But that was like $1.2 million a year in revenue.
Well, yeah, but they also had something like $500,000 in pay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Republican Party working for you right here.
If I only have a $500,000 in pay and I'm bringing in $1.2 million, that's pretty good odds.
Well,
I kind of like that.
But well, anyway.
I love the
that's it.
debate, though. This is what our
This is
party's
what we
about.
do,
This
yeah.
is the fact that you can actually express your opinions and go back and forth. Iron sharpens iron, and this is a perfect case of that. Perfect illustration, and that's why I love this Republican Party.
But I think both of us are concerned with control, making sure that you're getting your money's worth
Yep.
of what
Well,
you're
value,
spending.
Carl.
Getting the bang for your buck.
Bang for the buck, right, Donnie?
Absolutely.
You know, it's making your government efficient, and making smart choices so we don't waste the money.
I
I
think,
mean, the taxes we have, this is your money. It's not our money, this is your money.
yeah.
And you've hired us to spend it wisely. And be careful who you hire to spend that.
You're right. But I think people, if you have any business experience, I'd like to see you do run for some of these because we need more people up there.
Right.
So you don't have lawyers or some other
Other people giving us the business.
non-technical.
We need some smart people giving us the business.
Well, yeah, I shouldn't say that. I don't mean to condemn all the lawyers.
Just some of
because-
them, just only a few.
Just the ones that want to spend without
That's
saying.
right.
What you're
finding out
saying is you
why.
need people with common sense.
Yeah.
yeah,
Not lawyers.
right.
That- You added a word that I couldn't.
I paused before I said it.
I have a daughter that's a lawyer, so I know she was doing a good job at the federal level. But anyway,
But you don't have to be one in order to be engaged in helping out
That's
your
right.
community.
yeah, you have to have a good common sense. And just like you're running your
Absolutely.
household, you know, you don't spend it on all sorts of vacations when you're got kids going to college,
Right.
something like that. But I hope that
And
we
you
have, excuse me?
You need the ability to know that somebody else might have something that enhances your idea.
Right, that's another way. Yeah, thinking about it, Don. That's you're right. You do stir up some good input and good discussions like we're having here.
That's right.
And you get along and you try to make something that we can all agree to.
And that's the problem, for what I understand, this term. You've got separation, total separation.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the cafeteria, you go in the cafeteria now, you got Republicans on one
side,
side
yeah.
and Democrats on the other side, and they just stare at each other and snarl at each other.
Isn't that something? I mean, you're up there still, and I'm
And that's
not
why
there,
nothing's
but,
getting done.
I know when we had in 2010, 11, 12, we had good conversations going, even though we were the Republicans were in the supermajority.
Yeah, we would badger each other and criticize and harass each other and have fun.
Yep.
And then go to work
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Hey, I actually had lunch with Ken Gidge once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I don't think that's not a problem. He's a
Yeah.
human being first.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
human beings first. Get past it. I can't stand this. I'm hearing it more and more. Even the lobbyists saying, "What's going on up here? This isn't right. This isn't the way it should be."
Yeah. Our breakfast club was made up of Democrats and Republicans alike. Everybody was welcome.
Yeah.
Well, I think the conclusion we'd like to leave all the folks with is that we need a few people with common sense who'd like to make a difference. And you can make a big difference by running for House, running for Senate, running for Alderman, and we'd hope you'd consider that. So for the panel, Carl Seidel, Don LeBrun, Kevin Avard, I'm Bill Ohm. Thank you for watching us and hope to see you in the State House. Take care.
Good job, Bill.
Bill Ohm. I'm a former state rep, three terms in Ways and Means representing the city of Nashua, Ward 9. I'd like to talk to you a bit about what's it like to be a state representative in New Hampshire.
Okay. Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi there, I'm Bill Ohm. I'm a former state representative serving 3 terms in the State House. I'd like to talk to you about what it's like to become a state representative. We need some down-to-earth people with common sense, willing to give a little bit of their time and serve the people in their district at the legislature. It's not a big commitment. You could serve as little as 3 days a month in voting, or you could serve as much as 3 days a week or even more in committees and vetting very complicated bills and deciding what's right for the folks in New Hampshire. If you have any questions about being a state rep, you can give me a call. My cell number is 617-290-4114. Email billohm2010@aol.com. And my website, www.billohm.com. It's a rewarding experience, doesn't pay much, $100 a year, but if you want to be effective in doing what's right for your citizens, the people in your district, because we are all affected by whatever laws come out of the State House, and here's your chance to make a difference, decide which laws are good, which laws are not so good, which laws should be reformed, and which laws can be better improved. So I hope you consider running for state rep. Give me a call if you've got any concerns. I'll be happy to talk with you. Take care.
That's a wrap.
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay, good. Had a hard time reading the teleprompter, so I hope I got it right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, I should have turned it on.
All right.
Okay,
Always a pleasure.
have a good weekend.
Take care of it.